All right, good afternoon. We shall start now. Our new topic will be sensation and perception, but before I'm going to proceed with that, I would like to congratulate those who did very well in your recently concluded quiz. There were more than 10 students who got full marks, and I'm very happy to announce that. But of course, there was one student who got three, the only one, and I do not know what could be the reason. Most probably there was a problem along the way. Yeah. And how was the examination? How was your quiz? How did you go over it? Was it difficult? Was it fair enough?
Doctor?
Dima, yes.
Uh,
Dima, you got a
yeah.
problem. You understand?
Yes, I had a problem and I don't know what happened. That's why I couldn't join. But Miss Karen told me that I will make a makeup test later.
Hopefully, there will be second quiz for those people who really would like to make better in their quiz, no? But usually it happens that way. There will be a second quiz. No, I am not assuring you, but usually with my 10 years of teaching here, there would always be the second quiz, no? That will be
Yeah.
determined at a later date, at a later time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So it will be decided by the dean. Anybody can take it. Those who
Yeah.
did very bad, because I'm not happy with the three students. One student got 3/10. Other two students got 4. Although there was one student among the three did have some problem also because she came late in the exams. Hopefully, when we're going to have the repeat quiz,
Mm-hmm.
by the grace of God, the dean will allow us. Then everybody can actually be given a chance to make a good mark also, because I'm going to take only 1 out of 2. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
Dima, you
I'm
still
not
have a
from them,
chance.
right?
Yeah, Dima,
Uh,
anything you're feeling
yes, I'm not
something?
from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not from the students, right? That took bad marks, right?
No, no, no. You did not have any score at all, right? You're number 59, isn't
Yeah.
it? So
Yes.
you have no score. That's why I mark
Yeah.
it A. Okay, you get it.
Mm, okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
actually, there were 4 students who got problems. Number 59, number 58, and then another one. Anyway, we're going to hopefully we can actually make it. Okay. So just now I released the mark in the UMS. Did everybody get it? Did everybody see your mark? Yes, very good.
Yes.
No. So I believe you're happy. But those who are not able to get 10, you still have a chance for 10 during our second quiz, if there will be. Hopefully there will be. Okay. So that's it. I would like to start now with our new topic, which we call sensation and perception. All right. I would like to show to you one thing today. Um, a picture that I would like you to study. So, by the way, what is the relevance of sensation and perception to psychology? Before we are going to study the picture, we are going to analyze the picture. Any idea? What is the relevance, or why is it that we are studying sensation and perception in psychology? Anyone? Now, you see, I believe that there is no answer, you have no idea, but eventually when you're going to read, you will actually come to know that everything that passes through our senses will be interpreted in our brain. That is actually the thing. Now, the interpretation will be dependent on the kind of experiences that we have, all right? So, sensation and perception are two processes. These are two different processes that will involve our senses in the brain. Now, if we're going to look at sensation, that means to say we are going to be using our sense organ to detect the stimuli coming from the environment. All right. And when you say perception, this is initiating from the brain. This is how we see the stimuli. we are going to interpret the stimuli based on the experiences that we have. Okay. So before we will proceed with that, I really would like to show to you the picture on your desktop. Let's try to analyze the picture. What do you see?
Doctor, can I say?
Yeah, yes. Answer by all means.
Like human face,
Human
a
face.
dog, fish,
Dog.
gorilla, elephant.
Okay. So you name four. What about the others? Yeah. Come on. Gorilla, dog, fish. What else?
A tiger?
A
A
bear?
tiger. Yes. What else?
Frog,
Frog. Yes, definitely a frog is there.
A
What
bird?
else?
a bird,
A bird?
A bird. Hmm.
Mm.
What else?
Teddy bear.
A teddy bear. Yes. All right. Very creative, huh? What else?
Fish?
A fish. Yeah.
I
A
think I could
crocodile?
see a duck,
A duck. Yes.
A crocodile?
A crocodile. Yes.
Doctor, at the very
Yeah.
left, is there an ape?
What's that?
A gorilla, or what people call an ape?
A gorilla or an ape. A very big one. Yes. Yes. Very good. Very creative, huh?
I think there is a lion face in the gorilla also.
There
Like
is a
there are
lion
a lot of
face in the
faces.
gorilla. Yeah, a lot of faces. Yes, very creative, no? Yeah. The more you're going to stare at the picture, the more you are actually trying to figure out what figures would it be, would appear on the picture, isn't it? In fact, there are countless of figures that you could actually see on the picture, isn't it? Now, how did you come with that? How did you arrive at the figure? How did you arrive at the picture? The name of an animal that you could have named in the picture. What do you think?
Because it looks like it.
It looks like it. Yes, and you have an idea about it, isn't it? You have seen it, right? You have seen that particular animal in your lifetime, right? Maybe you have experienced it in your television, maybe you have experienced it in the zoo, maybe you have read about it, you have seen a picture about it, right? So that clearly registers to you, isn't it? So how did you see it? What made it, what made you see it? What made you look at it? What made you interpret that that particular image is that kind of animal that you know or that you think about?
It's
This
your
is
imagination.
imagination. Very good. Where is your imagination coming from?
our brain.
Ah, your brain. You see the traffic. You see the picture. There is light going to your eyes. Then from brain going to the picture, trying to tell you that image is that particular picture that you see, isn't it? So you made sense of a figure that is similarly like the picture or the animal that you are actually trying to mention. So it comes with your imagination, and your imagination originated from your experiences, isn't it? We have to come to think of it later on. Just like if you're going to look at the clouds, what do you see in the clouds? Do you see the cloud?
Fish?
A fish, and what
A
else?
tiger, I think.
A
Huh?
turtle?
Yes, what else?
A
This
duck.
one,
A duck.
the big
Sometimes
one.
car,
It's
Do
a
you see
car
the
wolf,
or
big
I
dragon.
guess.
one?
I don't know. Wolf or a dog.
Dragon.
Yeah, a tiger or a cat.
A tiger or a cat chasing the fish, right? Isn't it? The fish is here,
Yes.
right? Now, there is what we call as Gestalt psychology that we are going to analyze later on when we tackle a little part of sensation and perception. This is studying the whole rather than its part. So sometimes when we go out, we could actually rather see something else on the clouds that is based on our experiences. We see clouds, we see the figure of the cloud because that figure is very close to us, is associated with us. We have experienced that beforehand. And of course, there are people, there is what we call as the power of suggestion. We can suggest what you see. Some of you did not see the fish, but when I mention it or when somebody mentioned it, you could have seen it and you could have identified that. So we operate on the power of suggestion. You see, we can easily be influenced based on the suggestion that other person would actually tell. And that is very relevant in sensation and perception. All right. I will show you another picture. What do you see? Stare at it closely. Look at it closely. What do you see?
Doctor, did you change the slide?
Yeah, doctor, it's the same picture.
Ah, okay. Yeah, this time you see it now?
It's rotating. It's
Like
getting bigger.
it's moving.
It's moving, right? Why? Analyze closely the figure. Is it really moving or is it stationary?
When we look at it, it's stationary, but it's moving. I don't know.
The way we interpret it is different from the way we see it, right? The brain says it's moving, but the way we see it, it's not. Okay? There is discrepancy between the two. The picture does not move, but the brain will actually tell you that it's moving, isn't it? Look
Yes.
closely. So why? So we are going to answer those things as we go on. Okay? So another picture that I would like you to see. See? What do you see?
There's a dog lying, but it also looks like the hand of the person.
There is a dog, but it also looks like the hand of a person. But initially, what do you see first? The bigger picture of it.
Old man.
Her hand.
An old man. But if
Yeah.
you're going to see the details, what do you see? There are
I
so
see
many,
A
right?
woman with a
a
baby.
woman carrying a baby.
A woman carrying a baby, yes.
And the nose is like another person. The
Uh,
arm of it, I think.
yes. The
Yeah,
same
that's
old
One
another
man.
person with
playing
this.
music.
The same old man, isn't it? What else? You can make so many figures out of the picture if you are just
On
going
the
to look.
His
right
head.
side, there is like a face of a woman.
Okay, on the right side, there is a face of
Yeah,
a woman.
above the curve of the door gate, I guess. There's a face of a woman.
There is a face of a woman, yes, on the right side. That's the back, yeah? All right, that's
Yes,
the
yes,
back of
that
the
one.
old
And the
man.
same as well on the left side, below the crow. There is a
Yes,
face of a
yes.
man.
This one, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, what else? You can see plenty of images. Your brain suggests that you are actually looking at something. You see, your brain is trying to figure out something out of dots, dark pictures, and so on. This is how we see things. That's the reason why we see one thing, other person cannot see it. So we interpret things, other person may interpret it differently. That's what we do. That's how we are actually trying to differentiate what we see around us, how we appreciate music, how we appreciate figures, how we appreciate art, how we appreciate beauty, how we look at people around us. It will be different. Now, the way we see things will be based on the experiences that we have. Okay? What kind of experience? These are the experiences that we accumulated all throughout our lifespan from the beginning of time when we were born up to today. These are the things that we use in order to interpret things. So let us try to look closely on what we are trying to study right now. So we have the so-called sensation and perception. This is how we are trying to accumulate information around us and trying to interpret things that we accumulate. So it will denote the neurological functioning, which can be attributed as part of our vital signs. That is sensation and perception. No, this is when the client loses all his senses and perceiving the capacity that he can be declared as dead if nothing is actually coming out from your sense organs. Remember, there are actually 5 sense organs that we know of, isn't it? Are we familiar with that? Eyes. So what does eyes, what do your eyes denote? Sense of sight. Ears, sense of hearing, right? Tongue, sense of taste. Nose, yeah, sense of smell. And skin, sense of touch. These are all interconnected together. These are all wired together by neurons, and these all be wired, and these are all connected and moving throughout to your brain. So these are all interconnected, and it actually goes into one direction, and that is to the brain. And if there is something wrong with this, then there must be something wrong with that particular person. Now, the most important thing that we have to analyze is that when we are going to differentiate the two, how sensation will go by, how perception will happen. Remember, so sensation and perception are two different entities. Sensation originates from the outside, perception originates from the inside, from inside you, from your brain. Okay? So let us try to distinguish the two. What is the difference between sensation and perception? Okay. So come to think of it, sensation from the root word senses. These are all originating from our sense organ. How do we do it? Now remember, your sense organs are wired by a specific cranial nerve. Remember the 12 cranial nerves that you have, right? On the old Olympus, towering towers of French and German, beyond the spatial hat. OOO, oculomotor, yeah, optical, optic, you see? So these are the three O's, and so on and so forth, right? These are all 12 cranial nerves that are connected with the brain. All right. So it's connected there. When there is something wrong, then there is a problem with sensation. When there is something wrong also from there is problem with perception. There is no interpretation also, right? Now, what happens when there is sensation? This is the stimulation of sensory receptors and the transmission of sensory information to the central nervous system, to the CNS, okay? So let's say, how do we see things around us? Can we see a person? Can we bring a person from their physical nature to the brain? Of course not. We learn in physics that this person will actually be reflected with light, and this light will be converted into light wave, or it will be carried by light waves, and the light waves will travel and it will go to our eyes. From eyes, it will be picked by optic nerves. From there, it will go to the brain. From big person, then it is converted to electrical signal and go into the brain. That is sensation. We detect something. What about music? We hear, right? So we utilize the sound wave, isn't it? So there is music, there is vibration, we pick it up through the sound wave, then from the sound wave, we could actually pick it up, then it will be converted into electrical signal also. From electrical signal, it travels to the brain. That's how we sense things, okay? So stimulation of our sensory receptors, and in every sense organ, there are what we call as sensory receptors, we call as nerve endings. This will be converting all sorts of stimulation into electrical signal that will be carried by your neurons. So it will travel into your neurons, going to the brain. That's how we sense. That's what sensation is. Okay? So from the outside to the brain, that is the meaning of sensation. We pick it up. There is no interpretation yet. You cannot appreciate, you cannot actually see a human being yet. You do not know what figure of a human being is. You could not hear also. You could not recognize that. Now, the only way to recognize it is by means of interpreting it. That is by means of perceiving it. That is perception. Perception is the process by which sensations are organized into an inner representation of the world. From the brain, we can access all the informations that we have, and we have all our experiences, then it will go back. From there, from the site where we detected it, From that time, we will be able to interpret that. From that time, we will be able to see. From that time, when there is already perception, we will be able to hear. We will be able to detect whether it's hot or cold, among others. You see, that's how we perceive things. So sensation, we pick up stimulus from the surrounding, go into the brain. That sensation is actually converted into electrical signal because that's the only signal that can be detected by your neurons, so that this signal will be brought to your brain. Okay, that ends your sensation. From the brain going backward, that will be your perception when there will be interpretation of that sensory stimuli that you have detected from your outside, from outside the body. That's what we do. Moving forward, now to sense something has to have a certain level, of course. We cannot detect something that cannot be on a threshold. You know, sometimes it's very difficult to see. It's very difficult to hear. It's very difficult to detect if that is actually hot or cold. So we are going to abide by a specific threshold. That particular threshold is what we call as absolute threshold. This is the minimum amount of sensory stimulation that can be noticed 50% of the time. Of course, difference threshold is the smallest. How do we see? That's the reason why there is a certain extent that we cannot see. There will be a certain time that we cannot hear. There is a sound. We know that there is a sound, but how come that we do not hear that? Because the sound waves, the stimuli happen to be below the absolute threshold. We cannot pick it up. Okay? We cannot see because it falls the absolute threshold, so we cannot detect. Especially when you go at dark, when you go to a room that is very dark, you cannot see because the light is not there. It falls below threshold. The stimulation falls below threshold. There is absolute threshold that's 50%. Although it says that there is a thing there, you could actually see when there is light, but you could not see for the meantime because that particular object that you wanted to see falls at below the absolute threshold. So that's what we actually do. So we are going to look at that as we go on. Okay? So sensation is the detection of a stimuli from the body or environment. As I mentioned to you, we detect the stimuli from our body or from our environment, right? While perception is the act of interpreting that sensory input as signaling a particular object or event. So that's what we do. As I repeat, sensation, we detect stimuli, and perception, we interpret that sensory input, right? So that's what we do. That's how we sense, and that's how we perceive. You know now the difference between sensation and perception. Now, how come that an individual sees different things? See? We see different things because we interpret that particular thing differently. That will be dependent on our experiences. The way we interpret that will be dependent on our experiences. You see? So that's what we do. Now, in psychiatry and in psychology, clinical psychology, we're looking at it also because there are people who are actually telling that they can sense something. But that particular stimuli is devoid of physical form. That means to say it's not present, it's not existing. So when you're going to do that, you're going to form hallucination, and that is a very big issue. That is a very big problem because in that case, if you're hallucinating, then there will be a problem of your perception, then there will be mental disorder that we have to treat. You see? So moving forward, let us try to look into this. Number 4, sensation is the passive process of bringing information from the outside world into the body and to the brain. All right. So we keep on differentiating between sensation and perception. We see things because we detect them using the different energy level that we have. Just like I mentioned to you, if we are going to use our sense of sight, we need the light waves. We need light. All right. So light is actually traveling very fast. You learned this in your physics class, right? How many? What is the distance traveled by light per second? Can you still
3
recall?
into 10 to the power 8 meter per second.
That's 3,000 kilo. How much?
The speed of light, right?
Yes.
3 into 10 to the power 8
Yeah.
meter per second.
That is 300,000 kilometers per second, isn't it? Right? Not 3 million. That's 186,000 miles per second, right?
Maybe I didn't calculate it that further.
Yeah, it's 186,000 miles per second. It's very fast, isn't it? The reason why we see better just because of that. The reason why we see the lightning before we could hear the thunder is just because of that. Why? Light travels faster than the sound wave. So that's why it's very difficult to hear in a vacuum also, because it travels only. What is the speed travels by the sound wave? Do you still recall your physics class? Way below 186,000 miles or 300,000 kilometers per second. How much? Can you still recall? Science student, around 32,000 kilometers per second, isn't it? So you see, if you're going to observe thunder before the rain, you see first lightning before you could actually hear the thunder. But these are actually coming together, So they do not come after one after the other. It comes together. The thing is, we detect differently just because of the speed that will reach our brain. You see, we hear first, we see first before we hear, just because of the speed of the stimulation that we are detecting from them. Okay, so we need to see just because all the objects that we see will be converted into light waves, then later on it will be converted into electrical impulses. That is the only language that our neurons would only detect, electrical impulses. See, our impulses will be jumping from one neuron to another through the axons. You learn that in your anatomy. Then it will actually travel to your brain. That's how we do it. Then from the brain, we are trying to organize that, and as fast as we can, we try to interpret what we detect. Okay? So perception in this case is the active process of selecting. We need to select, organizing, and interpreting information brought to the brain by the senses. So we need to select, we need to organize, and we need to interpret that information that is brought by your senses. That's the reason why sometimes we are very confused, because we have difficulty selecting, we have difficulty organizing, and we have difficulty interpreting what information we are going to make out of the information brought to the brain. So it's very difficult sometimes, because especially when we are looking at things that we do not know about, we have no experience about, we cannot understand that. So we have difficulty already interpreting that. We have difficulty already organizing it. We have difficulty already selecting it. How do we store that in our brain? How do we organize that in our brain? How do we interpret that in our brain? Now every single day you are encountering so much information, and your brain is trying to store that and trying to interpret that. That's why your brain is always tired every single day. In our previous class, we need to replenish energy. We need to replenish the energy that we have spent. So therefore, we need to rest. How do we rest? We need to sleep. The brain needs to shut down in order to make it sure that the information that have been collected for a certain day would be properly archived in our brain, so that we can access that anytime we want to. That's how we do. That's how we use our brain. We cannot use our brain all throughout. Just like as I mentioned to you, you cannot open your computer all day long. You need to turn it off, or else it will slow down. The brain will do the same. We will be collecting millions of information every day. Remember, you are made up of 5 senses. Okay? So we collect the different information using these 5 senses. Remember, you're equipped with 5 senses, as I mentioned. Eyes, sense of sight, sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of hearing, and sense of touch. All these senses will be collecting information and will be bombarding the brain. And we do not want to confuse the brain. So we have to organize all the information that we continuously pick up from our surrounding. Yeah? Now, when there will be problems interpreting what we'll see, then there will be a psychological issue. Like, for instance, when I'm going to ask you, what do you see? And you're going to tell me, I see 1 instead of 2, then there will be a problem already. That's how we interpret, that's how we connect the problem of perception. We're always looking into the existence of things that people will actually perceive, the sense and the perceive. So we are going to look at that. When they perceive something that is not existing, then definitely there is a problem. There is a terrible psychological problem. That means from delusion to schizophrenia that we have to look into in abnormal psychology. Moving forward, so how do we know what information is important and should be focused on? Just like if you would like to narrow down what you would like to revise in your examination, a lot of students are doing this. You have been asking your teachers, sir, will you please pinpoint what are the subject matters that will be brought in your examination? You would like to narrow it down. Why do you would like to narrow it down? Class, do you do that, right? Most of the time you are asking your teachers, please try to tell us what are the subject matters to be studied. You do that, isn't it? When we do that, we try to narrow down. We try to narrow down the subject of what we are going to focus our attention to. When we are going to do that, we reduce the spent energy that we have. Now, the same way with our brain. How are we going to process the information? How are we going to focus the information that we are actually gathering? You see, if your classmates keep on talking about so many things, most of the time you will not pay attention because you are not interested. See, what are you going to focus on? The things that you are interested to. So that's the thing. We do not want to hear because we do not want to listen to them, because we do not want to focus to them. Right? So there are processes that we are going to adapt, like in the case of selective attention. Okay? Now, selective attention is a very important principle where we will focus our attention to a very important aspects, to a very important source of information around us. Now, this is the process of discriminating between what is important and not important, and this is also affected by our motivation. We are focusing our attention because we are interested to it. Just like listening to a lecture. If you are interested on a lecture, you are going to focus all your attention on that lecture. When you're watching your television, for instance, sometimes you are focusing your extra attention. What do? You keep on rewinding. If you are watching Netflix or OSN, you see, you try to focus your attention, all energy, in order to catch every single information that you would like to get. But of course, there are chances wherein if someone is talking and speaking, we do not focus, we do not care. That is the meaning of selective attention. We try to pay particular attention on a specific subject matter that we are interested on. That's why we mention about our motivation. We focus extra careful on certain aspects of what we perceive, what we sense around us. This is because we are motivated to do so. No? Like going to the museum, for instance. If you go to the museum, see, different people, different attention. If you're going to observe people when they go to museum, they have different appreciation of how beautiful an artwork is. Sometimes one student, one person would stay on a specific picture, other would actually pass through it. How come and why? You see, there is a small piece of, let's say, art object that seems to be a garbage, but for others, it would be something else. See, when you because you are focusing on to that particular object, you are motivated to do that. That is the meaning of selective attention. We are going to do extra focus, okay? Because we are motivated to understand, to look at it, and to see it, to hear it, to touch it, or to taste it. All right? That is the meaning of selective attention. This is the process of discriminating between what is important and not important. And of course, this will always be affected by our respective motivations. You see? I'm going to give another example, very practical example. Why is it that other students are not interested in psychology? Other students are interested in psychology. Yeah? Just because of your motivation. Maybe you are not interested in psychology, so you do not listen to lectures. Other students are interested in psychology, so they listen every single minute to the lecture of their faculty members. If you are interested with certain faculty, you devote your time, you focus your attention on the lectures. That is the meaning of selective attention. Okay, you discriminate the information that are actually coming out, that are actually detected by your senses. No? Okay. Another one, of course, will be the second principle is called perceptual expectancy. This is how we perceive the word, how we understand the word, a function of our previous culture. So culture has something to do with how we perceive things, and biological makeup, and of course, with our experiences. The way we look at the world, you and me have different ways of looking at the world. You see? Just like how we are going to appreciate expensive things, just like how we are going to appreciate expensive houses, beautiful pictures, beautiful people. We're always influenced by our own biases. This is how we perceive the world. You see, you are actually looking at the world based on your personal bias. The way I look at the world is different from the way you look at the world. See, other people would look at the world in their own perspective. This is the world that is supposed to be. This is what the world will meant to be to me. For me, this is the world. Maybe money has nothing to do with my own world, but for you, money has something to do. That's why you are actually looking at it. You love luxury. I don't love luxury. So that's how we do it. Others would like to conservatively look at the world. Maybe other people would look like would look at the world differently, in different perspective. That's what we do. So when you go, for instance, no, don't be surprised when you go to Thailand. I believe you would like, or everybody would like to go to Thailand or to Indonesia. I believe some of you went to Thailand or Indonesia already, no? There are beaches there. Don't expect that when you go to the beach, they are wearing the same way that we wear here. You see? Here also, when you go to the mall, don't expect that you're going to wear what you're wearing in the beach along that line. You see, that's perceptual expectancy. This is how we perceive the world. This is the function of our previous culture we dictate. We look at the world based on our experiences, based on what the culture will tell us to do, will tell us to appreciate things that we see around us. Biological makeup and at the same time experiences. That's how and what we do. These are the two very important principles that will guide us in understanding and in gathering all the information that we sense around us. You see? But of course, the way we interpret them will be different. That will be dependent on our personal biases, as I mentioned earlier. That will be dependent on the culture and other experiences that we could have from our childhood, from the past, from the time you were born. Remember, as I mentioned to you earlier also, you started experiencing things when you were born. In fact, when you were inside the mother's womb, okay? Because all your sense organs would already be functioning during the time. Moving forward, so let us try to look on different senses that we utilize in order to gather information around us. Sense of sight or vision. You know this, no? So this is coming from our eyes. The human eyes is essentially an energy detector. We detect light energy. The eye can distinguish between some types of electromagnetic energy. That's how we are going to gather information, no? Using our sense of sight, that is vision, okay? So we see things because all the things that we see are converted into electromagnetic energy, light wave that will be detected by the optic nerve that is attached to our eyes. That's what we do. We utilize vision. We utilize sense of sight. This is how we gather information using our vision. Okay, vision. Eyes are very important in realizing that. Without eyes, you cannot see, definitely. But sir, there are people, even though they are blind, they can see. Why they can see? Because they are imagining things. They're trying to interpret the things that you describe. But technically, if there is no sense of sight, you cannot sense any light waves, so you cannot definitely see. It's a two-way process. All right, there will be what we call a stimulation or stimulus. Then in return, there will be perception when you are already interpreting what you are looking to, what you are trying to sense. These are all the stimulation coming from outside your eyes. Moving forward, sense of hearing. No, our sense of hearing is affected by stimuli which are converted always into sound waves. These are all vibrations that we could hear around us. So we utilize a specific a specific nerve, the cranial nerve that we know of, the auditory nerve, isn't it? That's how we pick up sound waves around us. They're very fast, and of course, they can be affected by the changes in the air pressure, which are caused by a vibrating object. Now, sound waves vary in three ways, and each has distinct sensory effect. And these are the three ways where sound waves can vary. The frequency, no? So remember the frequency, the amount of cycles of sound pressure per second measured in hertz, which determine the pitch we hear. So frequency, I'll give you a very, the shorter frequency it is, the better, it's faster. The longer it is, the quality of sound will be different. Just like your AM and your FM. You're familiar with that? Which is better, AM or FM?
EM?
Sure? Are you familiar with that? Do you,
By
yeah.
by EM, do you mean electromagnetic or?
No, you have a car, right? You listen to the radio, isn't it?
No.
Do you don't listen to the radio when you are driving your car or when you're riding your car? Definitely there is a car stereo, right?
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah, there are two things there. When you are going to listen to the radio, isn't it? There are two frequencies there, right? AM and FM. So when you listen to the music, usually you tune into FM, isn't it? Are you familiar with that? And when you listen to prayers or talk shows, it is AM, right or wrong? Can you distinguish that? Oh, later on after this, you go to your car and you see the difference between AM and FM. Now, what happens? If you are going to have a longer frequency, it is actually the quality of sound will be bad. No, and of course, if shorter frequency, the quality of sound will be better. So AM stands for amplitude modulation. So the sound wave is actually, one cycle is actually very long. So they could easily be affected by the air. While FM is what we call as frequency modulation, right? One cycle is actually very small. So the speed is also faster. They cannot be easily be affected by the air pressure. That's why when we are going to listen to the music through radio, this will be better. And this will be in a higher frequency. This will be in a higher hertz. We call that as megahertz or million hertz. You see? So that's what we do. That's how we actually listen or how we could actually hear it. No? So frequency is the number of cycles of sound pressure per second measured in hertz. You see one complete cycle, right? Remember that? I believe you learned this in your physics. This is actually very important. This is how we hear. That's why we appreciate music because of this. That's why it plays a very important role also when we are buying radio, when we are buying speaker, when we are buying telephones. Yeah? Because of the sound quality, how we pick up the frequencies that are transmitted from major transmitter to your gadget. Okay? Moving forward, another very important measure is or weight is the amplitude or the intensity. This is the height of the sound wave. A peak, just like with the visual wave, the higher the amplitude, the louder the sound. Okay, the higher the amplitude, the louder the sound. So therefore, we are going to look into your intensity. Okay, there are people who actually has some difficulty let's say having this amplitude. No, all right. This is the quality of sound that you pick up. Okay. And lastly, the timbre, the kind or the mixture of sound waves that determines the tonal quality of what we hear. You see how pleasant the quality of the sound that you are hearing. Is it a baritone? Is it a bass? And so on and so forth. No, this is how we are actually looking or sensing into the different sound that we detect. That's why when you are trying to sing, you see, you know the difference between a good singer and a bad singer. They can control, they can have different timbre, they can actually have different amplitude. So because you would always determine the type of sounds that will emit from your mouth so that it will be picked up pleasantly by your ears. You see? So that's what we actually do. When you say amplitude, this is the loudness. When you say timbre, how pleasant the sound that you are actually hearing. When you say frequency, this is the speed of the transmission of the sound that you are trying to create or commit. That's how we are actually utilizing our sense of hearing. This is how we pick up information from our surrounding area utilizing our ears, utilizing our auditory nerves. Okay, so we always are very dependent on three ways, no? In which case it has always have what we call as distinct sensory effect to what we hear. The frequency, the amplitude, and at the same time, the timbre. Right? That is the second sense that we actually are using to gather information from our surrounding. And when you say surrounding, this is outside our body. Okay. Then later on, number three, we have skin sensation. All right. This is how we detect the hotness and coldness of an object. Okay. What is when we say the normal body temperature that we have? This is actually what we call as the base temperature that we have. What is the base temperature that we have in our body? Do you know? Base temperature is the normal temperature, right?
37?
37. Yes, that's the temperature. This is actually equal to 0. Anything that is actually above could be hot, and anything that's below 37 could be cold, because we utilize our body temperature as a base temperature, right? So that's how we look into skin sensation. Skin sensation operates on touch. So we have number one, touch is perceived through the sensory receptors in the skin. After all, our skin is the major and the largest organ of the body, isn't it? Skin is the largest organ
Yeah.
of the body, and underneath the skin are nerve endings, right? So it can detect everything. Okay, now our sensitivity varies depending on the part of our body. There are parts of the body that are equipped with so many nerve endings, and there are also other parts that do not do that may only have minimal nerve endings. No? Some areas of the body have receptors. Fingers and mouth are the most sensitive part of our skin. Okay, in our fingers, in our mouth. All right. Number two, pain has no specific receptors. Now it depends on the kind of experiences that you have. This is caused by the damage of bodily tissues, which will give out chemical substances that stimulate pain neurons. Now we are going to study the psychology of pain, maybe after this. So I prepared a special lecture on the psychology of pain, because as dentists, we are going to deal with that. Now, why is it that we are telling that pain has no receptor? Because normally pain could be a product of some destroyed skin, where the skin could actually be hurt. So when there is an injury, that injury will release a specific substance that will be transmitted to the brain. Especially when there is a cut on your skin, it will be picked up as it will be picked up by your neurons using the discharges, or using the chemical substances that could have been released, so that this will be detected in pain receptors that could be found in the brain. I mean, I'm saying in the neurons that could be found in the brain, so that it will be interpreted as pain. So we are going to look at that when we tackle the psychology of pain. Moving forward, the warm and cold. Now, your skin temperature is a physiological 0, as I mentioned to you. This is the base temperature, which is 37. Anything that deviates from physiological 0 will dictate if an object is warm or object is cold. That's why when somebody is febrile, we feel it. When we detect that there is a difference in temperature, let's say higher temperature, we could always see, or we could always sense, since our skin has a temperature that is physiological 0. And what is the equivalent of physiological 0? This is equivalent to 37 degrees centigrade. Okay. Now, if you touch something of this temperature, you shall feel no temperature at all, because this is equal to the temperature of our skin. There are warm and cold receptors that could be located inside our skin. Remember, your skin is made up of different layers, the epidermis, the dermis, and so on and so forth. And within this, we have our nerve endings. These are attached to neurons that is wired and connected to the brain. Okay? The heart is perceived by simultaneous activation of warm and cold receptors interchange, no? So we activate the receptor for heat and of course the receptor for cold temperature. After all, these are all located underneath our skin. That's why we can actually distinguish between what is warm and what is cold. Any questions so far?
No, doctor.
All right. And of course, I will be this will be the one. This will be the last slide that I will tackle for today. The sensation of pain. I'm going to devote one single topic for this, the psychology of pain. But for the meantime, pain we know is a psychological experience that is usually unwelcome and undesirable. That has something to do with physiological and at the same time emotional aspect. You see? So we'll study more about this as we go. How we are perceiving pain. How do we understand pain? What causes pain? There are biological pain, there are physiological pain, there are also psychological pain, there are also emotional pain. How do we perceive them? We detect, we sense, we interpret. We'll discuss further about this as we go. Okay? Any questions so far?
No, doctor.
All right. Okay, so this is recorded. I will upload all the records again in the website. I hope you follow through. And I'm going to upload also the lecture for today in the website. Please download that, okay? If there are no questions, then I think we're good to go today. Next meeting, we'll try to finish this so that we can proceed to the next topic, which may be more or less psychology of pain, okay? So for your attendance, please write your ID number, okay? Then
Doctor?
right person. Yes, my dear.
Yes. Last time you
Yeah.
said that there is no any assignment. You will give us like quiz 2 or
Yeah,
I
there
don't
will
know.
be no assignment because I know you
Yeah.
will just copy.
Are you going to are you going like to multiply the first quiz twice or we have quiz
No,
2?
no, there will be more or less, as I mentioned to you, we pray. You pray with me that we're going to have quiz 2 to help others. I would like to help the students, you see?
Okay,
If
so
you're
when it's going to
so
be or still not yet confirmed?
it's not yet confirmed, but chances are, with my 10 years of experience in the university,
Yeah.
there will always be quiz too. Okay,
And you will choose the best one.
and choose the best one. Those who got 10 may not necessarily take the quiz too.
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
those who got, but of course, I suggest that you take it because it's a challenge. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
answer that. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, but of course it will help you to prepare for major examinations.
Yes. And one more thing. How many lessons are in the CA?
I will decide. Help me decide. We'll
I
discuss
will
about
help.
that. We'll discuss about that next meeting.
Please,
No?
not more than 5 or 4.
Not more than 5 or 4. That means 3.
Yes.
Okay, we'll discuss about that next meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Okay. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome. Bye bye.